I try my best to provide healthy meals and snacks for my family while also maintaining a fairly tight budget. The pre-made snacks at the health food stores tend to be really overpriced and still have a lot of those added ingredients that I would rather not have in my food. Eating healthy and budgeting can be really difficult to do, but by making food from scratch at home, you can oftentimes check both of those boxes. So please join me today in restocking my pantry with healthy foods that will feed our family of 4 in the upcoming week. So today we're going to be starting off by making some vanilla granola. It's sort of a replacement for cereal in this household. I will often just have a bowl of granola and milk in the morning, so it's definitely something I like to try and keep stocked in our pantry. And the great thing about granola is you can really put whatever you want into it. My granola changes weekly depending on what ingredients I have in my pantry at the time. This week I'm making a pistachio and vanilla granola. It was absolutely delicious. I don't think I've ever made pistachio granola before, but I highly recommend it. It was really, really good. So I start by putting 2 cups of some sort of nut into the food processor. I did almond and pistachio. I will then combine those in my mixer with 2 cups rolled oats, a tablespoon of vanilla, a teaspoon of cinnamon, 3 tablespoons of flaxseed meal, a 1/4 cup melted coconut oil, and 1/2 cup honey or maple syrup. I used maple syrup. And then I will pop that onto my mixer and give it a good stir until it is all well combined. Spread it evenly on a pan lined with parchment paper and bake at about 350 degrees for 15 minutes or so, stirring halfway through. If you want chunkier granola, I would recommend pressing it into the pan before baking and then breaking it apart after it's cooled. We've gone through almost all of this granola and it hasn't even been a week since I made it. And it made quite a bit, but this stuff was it was delicious. It really makes a great snack for my 1-year-old son as well. I'm trying to find things to replace the Cheerios that I will often put in his little snack cup, and this granola, it really hits the spot. Next up, we have some energy bites. These are also really flexible, and it was difficult for me to really pin down some exact measurements for you guys, as you'll be able to see. I mostly measure with my heart. But I'm just combining almonds, unsweetened coconut flakes, some oats, flaxseed meal, a bit of vanilla and cinnamon, some maple syrup, a pinch of salt, and some peanut butter. Nutritional yeast and raisins. But I'll just chuck all of that into my food processor, give it a good blend until everything is well combined. And then just using one of those cookie scoops, I will shape them into finger-sized balls. My 1-year-old son absolutely loves these as a snack. He could put away the whole container in one sitting if I let him. And these are good in the fridge for up to a week, so a great thing to batch make. Also, why does no one ever show the mess that baking from home causes and creates? I have to pause between recipes to quickly just clean up and get the kitchen back in order, especially since I have a small kitchen. This is vital, otherwise I will lose my mind. Sourdough pancakes are one of my son's favorite foods. He could eat these every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and still not get tired of them. I will be sure to link the recipe down below for you guys. It's not my recipe. I'm pretty sure it's Lisa from Farmhouse on Boone. She has some really great sourdough recipes on her blog, so please go check her out. But this recipe is extremely simple. You just need to do a little bit of planning ahead and make sure you have your starter fed for when you want to make these. I usually feed my starter as soon as I get up in the morning, and then I batch make a ton of these pancakes sometime in the afternoon, and then just store them in the fridge and pull them out as I need them. These keep really well in the fridge. I'm sure you would be able to keep them without any problem for up to a week. Of course, they never last that long in this household. We go through them very quickly. You can oftentimes catch me eating them straight out of the fridge, cold, as a snack, without anything on top of them. They're that good. I'm trying something new this week and making yogurt. I don't know why it's taken me this long to make yogurt because it was so incredibly simple and easy to do. So if you've been on the edge about, do I make yogurt or do I just keep buying it from the store? Please, this is your sign. Make yogurt from home. It is so simple and it's delicious. All you have to do is heat a half gallon of whole milk in your Instant Pot until it reaches about 180 degrees. Mine went a little bit over. I think I was still under 185, but over 180. And then you're going to let it cool down to somewhere between 110 degrees and 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Once you get it down to that lower temperature, you're going to add in your culture. I just use a small yogurt container from the store. Make sure it's plain and that it says it contains live cultures. You'll need about a quarter cup. You're going to mix that in and set it to the yogurt setting. I did 15 hours, but I'm pretty sure you can do anywhere between 13 and 15 hours and you'll be good to go. I'm also going to get some sourdough bread started this evening. Again, I use Lisa's recipe from over on the Farmhouse on Boone blog. I will be sure to link her recipe down below. I'm fairly new to sourdough. I've only had my starter for about 5 months now. I did it on and off last year, but we just didn't eat enough bread for me to condone constantly feeding and discarding my starter. But my son has really developed a love for carbs, especially bread, so I try to make it at least once a week, mostly for his sake, as well as the occasional sandwich for my husband and I. I typically feed my starter at around noon, then make my loaf between 6 and 7 o'clock that evening. That way I finish my stretch and folds right before bedtime, so between 8 and 9 o'clock. I will then cover it and leave it on the counter to rise until the next morning when I will finish it off. So it's the next morning, and I started by finishing up with my yogurt. I did decide to strain it, but looking back, I would probably just skip this step. I don't think it was necessary. It made it closer to a sour cream consistency. So if that's something you like, totally go for that. I prefer kind of a runnier yogurt. I bought these reusable silicone pouches for my son. And this yogurt was just a little too thick for him to squeeze it out of the pouch. So I've already made another batch of yogurt. We went through this batch in like 2 days. It was so good. But I made another batch, and this time I didn't strain it, and it was the perfect consistency. It can be rather deceiving when it first comes out of the Instant Pot because it's warm and it's very runny. But once you put it in the fridge, it sets up and it becomes thicker. So I personally don't recommend straining it. I think it is perfect the way it is straight out of the Instant Pot. And hey, that cuts down on another step. Something you don't have to waste your time doing, but totally up to personal preference. Either way, it is really, really delicious. I'm not a huge fan of plain yogurt, but I can eat this yogurt plain without any toppings. I do usually mix just a little bit of maple syrup in it, but my son does prefer it just a little bit sweetened. Moving on to finishing up my sourdough loaves. I did a double batch this time around. We had some neighbors who moved in next door, so I wanted to make a loaf to them. Also, let me be your daily reminder that you do not need those fancy sourdough tools that you see everyone online use. I use a basic IKEA spatula as a dough scraper, and is it pretty? No, but it gets the job done. I also don't have banneton baskets. I've always just used a bowl, which has worked great for me, so I've never really felt the need for a banneton basket. And in my mind, it's just one less thing for me to have to find a place for in my small kitchen. Someday I wouldn't mind getting one. I do think they're pretty, but for the time being, a bowl works perfectly well. For my sandwich loaf, all I do differently is I let it proof in a loaf pan versus a bowl. I don't change the recipe at all. It's all the same ingredients, the same process up until shaping the loaf. So once I'm done shaping, I'll leave both my loaves to sit on the counter for about 3 hours, and then I will pop them in the fridge covered for another 2 hours or so before baking. I find that this gives them a better spring in the oven, and also I just find that it's so much easier to do the scoring when they're chilled and a little bit firmer. So I'm not going to show you how I scored and flipped out my round loaf of sourdough. I'm sure you've seen it before. But I will show you how I do my sandwich loaf. Again, I don't have any of the sourdough specific baking tools, so I just flip it out of the loaf pan that I had it proofing in. And then I pop it back into that same loaf pan once I have it on the parchment paper and I have it scored. Once it's in the oven, I'll put another loaf pan over top of it and let it bake for about 20 minutes covered. It can be tricky to get that loaf pan to stay balanced on top. I have kind of an awkward shaped one. These are the only 2 loaf pans that I own. But hey, I make it work. We get there in the end. It's just a little bit tricky. And also just be careful when you go to remove that top pan. Be careful not to burn your hands. I've been fortunate, haven't burnt them yet from doing this, but I can see how it would be really easy when that steam just comes billowing out of your loaf pan, that it could very easily burn your hands. So please be careful. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this inspired you to get into your kitchen and try making some of your staple kitchen items rather than just going out and buying them from the store. Please leave a like and comment, hit that subscribe button below, and I will see you all next week. Take care.